The past few weeks on the internet have been absolutely wild for big names getting exposed. And Ava Kris Tyson is just the latest in a long line of huge breaking news stories. I'm sure that you've heard of the Ava Kris Tyson situation by now, but in case you haven't, please allow me to explain. It's recently been revealed to the mainstream that Ava Kris Tyson had previously been heavily affiliated with Shadman, an artist that frequently drew CP and Lolly. If you don't know what Lolly is, it's a character that's supposed to be over the age of consent, but looks like a child. So like a vampire that seems young, but is actually like 600 years old. And when I say that Ava Kris Tyson was affiliated with Shadman, what I mean is that they were enough of a fan to purchase Shadman's art, which you can actually see in the background of a Mr. Beast video being displayed on the wall. This video has since been edited so that the shot is no longer present. Shadman is also known on the internet for drawing the daughter of Keemstar in a sexual manner. This picture would later be taken down from the internet after a confrontation with Colossal is Crazy.
Colossal, I respect you like a hell of a lot. And just like man to man, if you think it would be better for me to take it down, I would take it down just out of respect to you.
If you could do that, I think that would be wonderful.
You know, I'm gonna go do that right now. I'm gonna take it down out of respect to Colossal.
I appreciate you doing that.
Now, because of Shadman's abhorrent reputation, people have recently been looking into creators that were associated with him in the past. Creators that replied to him on Twitter before, creators that commissioned art from him, and all the rest. To many people, this is the YouTube equivalent of being photographed with Epstein. All of these creators are now under a microscope, especially Ava Kris Tyson, who is also alleged to have had an inappropriate relationship with a minor. This minor goes by the username of Lava, who, when the majority of this was going down, was roughly 13 to 14 years old, whereas Kris would have been roughly 20. Now, it should be said that Lava initially went on the record to claim that their relationship was not inappropriate. Critics have argued that if Lava had been groomed, then he wouldn't know about it, and that any form of relationship that a 13 or 14-year-old had with someone of Ava's age would be inappropriate by default, regardless of what was sent. And what was sent was sexual jokes and pornography. There are a number of screenshots and testimonies that prove that these messages were sent. And shortly after this, sent all around the internet, was a video of Ava from back in the day discussing Jennette McCurdy's leaked pictures. The context behind this was that a couple of years ago, Jennette McCurdy, who you might know from her days on Nickelodeon, had not safe for work photos of her leaked. Within a video, Ava would discuss the incident and had the pictures linked below for anyone that wanted to see them. They said that they didn't condone people looking at these pictures, but in case people wanted to, they were linked to see. These allegations have been explained in much greater detail in various other videos, but this one isn't going to expand on that. Instead, I want to talk about the fallout and aftermath of the situation. So please allow me to walk you through it, and we'll start off with the reactions made by members of the Mr. Beast crew. So reactions to this situation have so far been given by 4 people who at one point have been a part of the Mr. Beast crew. Those 4 are Jake the Viking, Dawson, Mr. Beast, and Ava. So let's start with Jake because he was the first one to cover the situation. In case you don't know Jake the Viking, he used to be a main cast member, if you want to call it that, of the Mr. Beast channel. These days you have the likes of Carl and Nolan, but in the early days, when challenges were a lot more physical and were often done by the Mr. Beast crew themselves, Jake was on camera a lot. That was until 2020, when he announced that he was leaving the channel.
And so with that being said, this is my official announcement. You know, I have parted ways with Mr. Beast and the Mr. Beast channel.
During the video, he made the claim that he had left the company on very good terms, assuring his audience that this was for the most part a mutual decision, with him already wanting to branch out.
And so it was pretty much like a kind of a mutual parting. You know, me and Mr. Beast, or me and Jimmy did not have any type of falling out. There was no argument, there was no bashing, there was none of that. It was very mutual because it was something I was already contemplating, you know, not if, but when.
As it turns out, this video had to be approved by Mr. Beast's management.
I messaged Daryl and I was like, well, is it cool if I make a video kind of like explaining what all happened in a way so I can just tell people to go to that? He goes, yeah, you'll just have to send it to me for approval. I was like, all right, cool. So the video that you see on Why I Love Mr. Beast had to get approved by Daryl.
However, he also claimed that he still saw all of the people that worked at MrBeast as friends.
I still consider all them friends. If they ever want to hang out, they have my number. You know, there was no falling out, like I said.
Clearly things have changed over the past few years, because Jake has been very vocal ever since about the inner workings of the MrBeast channel, insinuating in this instance that Ava Kris Tyson is a PDF file, saying that Jimmy knew, and saying that pronouns don't matter when you're talking inappropriately to kids. Moving on, we have Dawson, otherwise known as Dogpack404. Unless you're well versed in this drama, there's a good chance that you might not know who this person is. So in case you don't, Dawson was a MrBeast employee that worked at some point in the first half of this year. He uploaded this video onto his Twitter saying that a shitstorm was about to head towards the MrBeast channel and that people had known about this for a long time, being silenced by the possibility that Ava sues.
My name is Dawson. I worked at MrBeast from February to May of this year, 2024. Chris is the tip of the iceberg. And when Jake the Viking says MrBeast knew, yeah, MrBeast knew. I heard many times that Ava Kris Tyson is a major liability, but they can't get rid of her because she's already threatened legal action and she knows too much. And when all this information comes out about everything that she knew, everything other people know, I promise you on everything MrBeast has done. Amazon, if you can get your money back, get your money back.
Dawson would then make a post within the Ask Me Anything subreddit, answering some questions under the username MrBeast Creative. Within this AMA, he painted a very sinister picture of the MrBeast brand, saying that a lot of it is focused on using psychological techniques on children to keep them watching, essentially manipulating them into watching MrBeast content. He was also very skeptical of Jimmy's claim that he wanted to live a minimal lifestyle, saying that this was all just a facade. Finally, Dawson would upload an unmonetized video to YouTube where he reaffirmed the points that he made within the AMA.
You know, there's a big emphasis at the company of like how to manipulate children, like understanding their psychology and everything, and like seeing that that's sort of used in weird ways. And you know, there's been like parasocial relationships and, you know, encouraging like almost children simping for these people. And you know, maybe that's as nefarious as it gets, or maybe it goes deeper.
Dawson was saying that little details, such as MrBeast running into kids and giving them rewards if they're subscribed to him, were manipulative, and psychologically conditioning children to watch. Going on to say that contestants were often just friends and family members of people who worked at MrBeast, or even just employees. He went on to say that videos were faked a lot to up the tension and drama. From elements such as CGI manipulating what happened, to voice lines being added in post, to blatant misleading information during the narration, to the editing completely reimagining what happened, and so on and so forth. He even claims that the video 7 Days Stranded at Sea was faked, with the crew actually staying on a production yacht.
During this time lapse on the 4th day of 7 Days Stranded at Sea, you can clearly see there's no one in the shelter. These are their empty beds. But after a hard cut, magically 5 people are awake, and 2 of the boys have bright yellow raincoats that they didn't have when it rained on day 2.
And after standing the whole night completely soaked...
You didn't spend the night soaked, Jimmy. You slept on the production yacht.
If you want to see this video, it'll be linked down in the description. And in the infamous words of Ava Kris Tyson, I don't condone you to go and view it, but if you do, it's there. Back on topic, Dawson definitely seems to have a lot of insider information. He has contacts within the company, he has first-hand experience having worked there. However, the dialogue being spoken is currently very one way. We don't know very much, if anything, about him, so it's very possible that he left the company on bad terms and is now trying to get some sort of revenge. Okay, so I'm recording this after the fact, so please bear with me. There's this guy on Twitter called Chucky who's come out to debunk some of Dawson's video. He apparently runs MrBeast's ideas and thumbnails team. He claims that Dawson worked at the company for less than a month and then was fired. So what I wrote about us not knowing him and him potentially having alternative motives is definitely in line with what Chucky was saying. He debunks the idea that friends and family get first dibs, and a few smaller allegations that Dawson made, such as paying $1 for the island or that the wink was CGI'd in. It seems like a good response on the surface, but actually I think this is incredibly manipulative if there's no follow-up. This post never touches on the 7 days stranded at sea being faked, which is kind of like whatever, but even more damning is the fact that a huge portion of this video is dedicated to the study and manipulation of child psychology. Who cares if the raccoon wasn't a paid actor? That might have been a joke. Why would you even care to address that? And who cares about the beef between two contestants? I think that people can understand if editing kind of stretches the truth a little bit in a game show or a competition. But this response completely disregards the majority of actual allegations made against the MrBeast brand. It picks and chooses arguments that it can easily dispel, but it doesn't actually touch on many of the most important allegations. Dawson's claim about friends and family getting first dibs seemed flimsy at best considering how many people have been in MrBeast videos, so good, dispel that. It's also good to see that they've denied faking giveaways, but Chucky, my man, if you're going to respond, it's probably best that you put the important stuff in first. The manipulation of child psychology is probably the most heinous allegation that he makes, and it's just not even discussed, not once. It seems as though Dawson has more skin in the game than first thought, and he's definitely a biased, untrustworthy source, but by the same token, if this never gets followed up by any actual responses to important things that Dawson alleged, then this is incredibly manipulative. I'm sorry if I sound annoyed, but this response actually angered me. Also, I'm recording this a few days later than I recorded that last bit. This is a developing situation, so I guess that's to be expected, but MrBeast has apparently sent Dawson a cease and desist letter. To be honest, I'm not exactly surprised, but Dawson in response seems to be refusing to back down, with him uploading a video to his Twitter that speedruns through a few problems that he's identified with MrBeast and YouTube. Unless anything crazy happens between now, Wednesday the 31st of July, and Friday the 2nd of August when I intend to upload this specific video, this will be the last I update you guys of the Dawson allegations within this specific video. That said, I have a sneaky feeling that this story will still take a few twists and turns throughout the next couple of weeks and months. And if Jimmy does speak out, then I might make a video dedicated to his response. So let me know down below if you'd like to see that. Anyway, back on with the video. That said, this subject is quite interesting because just after this, another Reddit AMA came out. This one from someone that used to work as a cameraman in the summer of 2022. And this user, known as Bootar, had some different things to say. Boots AMA seemed to paint a picture of wins and losses, taking a much more understanding and nuanced opinion, and also said that some of Dawson's takes, such as the use of AI, was a null point. That said, he also admitted that Feastables was a scam, that the organisation was super unorganised, and that it's shameful that the company uses FOMO tactics on children. Boots AMA was a lot more shades of grey than the monochromatic outlook taken by Dawson. Although there are some parts of these allegations that we're still waiting to hear a response from, some people have already been out in support of MrBeast. For example, in his takedown video, Dawson alleges that this guy Mantanice was done dirty because he had to spend $1 million in just 24 hours. This kind of money could set you up for life, but instead, Dawson alleges that it left him with regret because obviously in such a short time frame, it's tough to know how to wisely spend your money.
It's not me calling anybody a liar or anything, because I know what y'all do, I know what the internet does. But what I think what happened was somebody that worked for MrBeast or something like that was supposed to probably help me invest, but that didn't happen. I was telling him, I was like, man, I don't want to fail. I don't want to be like how everybody's saying, like I'm gonna run out of money and do all this crazy stuff. I was like, man, Jimmy, please help me. And he said he was gonna help me and we was gonna invest, but yeah, that didn't happen. So. But
despite how it comes off in Mantanice's video, he came out on Twitter to say that though MrBeast didn't help him to invest, he did help him in other ways. The guy in question came out to say that Jimmy helped him for 4 years to handle his financial situation with no strings attached. And Jimmy's 5 millionth subscriber also spoke out, saying that the accusations that he only casts friends and family is false. Now, you might be wondering why I'm mentioning this at all, because this doesn't seem to be directly linked to the Ava Kris Tyson allegations. However, ever since these allegations came out, because MrBeast has been tied at the hip to Ava for such a long time, he too has come under fire. If we want to discuss the whole fallout of this situation, then we need to talk about MrBeast not only as a brand, but also as a person. On the 25th of July 2024, The Mirror published an article about MrBeast in which they mentioned various controversies that Jimmy had been a part of in the past. If you've watched MrBeast for a long time, then you might be able to remember that back in his early days, his content was a lot less child-oriented. He cracked jokes about selling slaves and had previously said slurs.
Ooh, you're if you're homosexual.
Now, these incidents all took place a number of years ago in the mid to late 2010s, and some of these were said jovially, not to be taken seriously. Now that the cat's out of the bag, it's up to you to decide whether you think that Jimmy deserves any heat or flack from this. Some people think that these kinds of things are never okay to joke about, and whether it be half a year or half a decade, if you say these kinds of things, then you need to face repercussions. Whereas others think that because it was such a long time ago, these kinds of incidents are just non-stories. Whatever you believe, we're going to march on with this video to discuss the internet's discourse about the situation. And I think that the response from people can be split into several different categories. So let's start off with the most important of these, that being the responses from alleged victims. So far, there have been a total of 3 people that Kris was associated with that have come out to address their relationship with them. The first of which was Nathan, who came out to say that he did believe that their relationship was inappropriate.
Kris Tyson from MrBeast used me, manipulated me, and did very inappropriate things with me while I was about 15 years old.
Going on to say that he did a lot of unpaid work for Ava Kris Tyson in their Discord server, and it was there, in that now infamous server, where Kris had sent pornography and hentai to him. Nathan at this point was 15 to 16 years old, and Ava Kris Tyson was 20 to 21.
He would even go as far as linking me several different porn and hentai videos throughout the time of me talking with him. Not only that, but he had an NSFW bot in his Discord server before he made it public, so when it was just a private server, his little circle of minors, and he would use this NSFW bot to spam different porn images alongside all these 15-year-olds. He would also frequently call me dad and daddy, as well as the others, which I guess we all kind of just took as a joke at the time. You have to think this is someone who we looked up to at the time, we idolized, we thought was the coolest person in the world, so they couldn't really do any wrong in our eyes. But looking back, I was definitely uncomfortable at being called daddy by a 20-year-old. Even just thinking about it now, it's just uncomfortable.
Nathan would finish by saying that himself and Lava were asked to scrub the Discord server of the pornographic links, as well as the slurs that were written by Ava and their friends, ending the video on the note that this was just the tip of the iceberg.
This story is so much bigger and runs so much deeper than any of you really realize, so if you want to hear more and you want a part 2, let me know.
And I find this particularly interesting because if you remember, this was the exact same kind of thing that Dawson said.
Kris is the tip of the iceberg. And when all this information comes out about everything that she knew, everything other people know, I promise you on everything MrBeast is done.
Provided that these two didn't coordinate their responses, or one watched the others and thought that it would be a good thing to regurgitate, having 2 different people say that the rabbit hole goes deeper is concerning to say the least. Nathan's statement was criticised by Lava, who we'll get more into in just a moment. Lava said that a lot of what Nathan was saying was just a flat-out lie. For example, they never agreed to any payment, and there were never any racist remarks that were scrubbed. Additionally, Lava made the claim that Nathan was eventually removed from the Discord because he was unstable and frequently would lash out. Nathan replied to say that he wasn't removed, but did call himself unstable. Was he just doing this to set up Ava? Well, his story is in line with most accusations, as well as the Discord leak, something that we'll get into later. Shortly after this, Lava would post to Twitter that he had reconsidered things. When this news was first breaking, Lava was perhaps Ava's best defense, being adamant that he was not groomed and saying that people were lying about this to defame Ava. However, on the 26th of June, Lava would post an update. He said that his memory of the situation was hazy, considering that this happened 5 to 6 years ago. He maintained his stance that he did not believe that Ava Kris Tyson groomed him, but many people have been saying that the entire point of grooming is that the person being groomed doesn't know that it's happening. Regardless, this reflection is an update that hasn't been included in a lot of initial reports because this, as of the time of writing, is so new. A few days later, another person came forward, someone who goes by Muskina. They claim that Ava followed them on Twitter in November 2022 after seeing pictures of their transition. Muskina and Ava seemed to develop a close relationship shortly after. This relationship would soon turn sexual, with Muskina alleging that Ava asked them to pleasure themselves while on a video call, with Muskina feeling as though they had to be featured in a video or get a job at MrBeast. They would go on to say, and I quote, "Our relationship was very confusing to me, and I didn't fully realise that I was being coerced at the time." One of the big things that Muskina alleges was that this sexual relationship was very one-way, with them doing Ava a lot of sexual pleasures, but never receiving any in return. Ava flew Muskina out and allowed Muskina to stay with them, but according to Muskina's allegations, Ava knew the power that they had over them, and therefore Muskina was able to be used without much care or affection. Quote, "We went through a cycle of her love-bombing me, using me, falling for someone else, treating me like I'm an annoying jealous ex, and then coming back when things didn't work out." Muskina was eventually hired by Ava and moved to live with them. Then Muskina alleges SA. "On the 29th of July, we were watching TV together, alone in her living room. With no warning, prior physical engagement, or sexual conversation, she took off her pants and started touching herself in front of me. In no way, shape or form did I feel like I could say no without somehow risking my job or being asked to leave. She used that against me in order to receive non-consensual oral sex." Shy of a year later, Muskina would move out, but apparently had an agreement with Ava to keep their position remotely. This wouldn't happen, however, and Muskina was replaced. The last contact it seems they had happened after Ava Kris Tyson discovered that Muskina had discussed the assault and thought about bringing it up to HR. After which, Ava blocked them on everything. Quote, "A few days later, I told them enough about what happened between Ava and I, which led MrBeast to launch a third-party investigation into the matter. I provided them with evidence of chat logs, screenshots, and gave them a list of witnesses in the company who had seen Ava and I being physical together. That was over 2 weeks ago, and in that time I've not heard back anything, despite asking for an update twice. During this time period, the allegations against Ava for inappropriately talking to minors and more details of her relationship with Shabman became public. As of me recording this, neither Ava Kris Tyson nor the MrBeast brand have commented on this allegation. However, with this being such a heavy topic, I think that it's best to ease the pressure of this video with our next subject. With that said, I think it's time to address this, because what we're about to talk about has been a common reaction since these allegations came out, that being the apologies to SunnyV2. In case you've never heard of this controversy, back in April 2023, an extremely popular documentary/commentary creator named SunnyV2 created a video titled "How Will the Kris Tyson Situation Impact MrBeast?", in which he detailed that because Ava Kris Tyson came out as trans and there was a rumour on the internet that they had abandoned their family, they were essentially a ticking time bomb. In the video, Sunny includes a bunch of screenshots from people on Twitter who were criticising Ava for the transition, saying that Tucker, Ava's son, was growing up without a father now, and that it wasn't fair for the child. Sunny would also show that there was backlash from MrBeast's audience, with a higher dislike ratio on his videos than ever before. His point was that MrBeast was now stuck, being unable to kick Kris out because he would be called out for transphobia, but by keeping Kris on, he would lose audience members who were against the transition.
It's a lose-lose situation for MrBeast. I think Jimmy is in an inescapable situation. If he kicks out Kris, cancelled. If he don't, his channel will die for real. An inescapable situation is a pretty good way of describing the drama, which is also why it deserves the harsh label of being a nightmare.
Sunny's video would receive a generally negative response, with a like to dislike ratio that's almost down the middle. Some people would call out Sunny for being transphobic, with him repeatedly referring to Ava Kris Tyson as a he, and seeming to agree with the notion that Ava merely existing was bad for business simply because they were trans. Flash forward to today, and people on Twitter were saying that we need to give Sunny an apology, that he was right about Kris the whole time, and that the hate that he received in response to the video was unjustified. But the problem with this way of thinking though is that while Ava Kris Tyson is now despised on the internet, these allegations are unrelated to the points that Sunny brought up within his video. There are many comments on this video now that are saying that Sunny was correct all along, but the points that he made within this video have nothing to do with Shabman, nothing to do with the Jeanette McCurdy video, and nothing to do with inappropriate relationships with minors. Now, regardless of what you think of Sunny's video, whether you think it was transphobic or not, because of this cancellation, discussion over the trans community has been talked about a lot online. To point out the elephant in the room, Ava Kris Tyson is trans, and so throughout this saga, it's likely that some arguments or defenses have been impacted by this. Let's be honest with ourselves, some people do not like the fact that Ava Kris Tyson is trans, and therefore they've taken it upon themselves to generalize this incident to the entire community. But now's probably the right time. I think I mentioned Ava's apparent sister, who came out on Twitter to allege that this was all one big fetish. The source here is drama alert, so please take this with a grain of salt. But this alleged sibling tweeted that she calls Ava Kris Tyson a he because it's the correct pronoun, and that at one point Ava stole her clothes and put them on, getting aroused in the process, calling this 100% a fetish. This was tweeted roughly 3 days before Keem picked up on it, and people have been saying that if this is true, it's setting the trans community back to the Stone Age because it's playing into a huge stereotype. That said, as of right now, I couldn't find any ironclad confirmation that this person is Ava's sibling, and even if they are, whether or not they're being honest. Now, as this was coming out, there were a few people online that were defending Ava Kris Tyson in that they thought that this attempt in cancellation was motivated by transphobia. For example, after some ordinary gamers spoke about the topic, there were people in some communities that were calling him a transphobe, with them making the argument that there were other creators that were associated with Shabman that had not been called out or exposed. There have been many people calling hypocrisy in this situation. From some people saying that it was hypocritical that it was only Ava that was called out, considering that many creators have been involved with Shabman in the past, to other people saying that it was hypocritical that big name creators didn't talk about this situation in the same manner that they spoke about similar incidents in the past. I wouldn't be able to make a video discussing the fallout of this situation without mentioning the fact that a lot of big name creators have been called out for having hypocritical takes when it comes to Ava Kris Tyson. The thought was that because Ava was an extremely close friend of Mr. Beast, there might have been a few big name creators that were hesitant to discuss this issue because they wanted to maintain their relationship with Jimmy. How true this was is debatable, but the internet at this point were out for blood. Within 24 hours of this story blowing up, the big names on YouTube were asked why they hadn't discussed it yet. People questioned if streamers were trying to sweep it under the rug. Perhaps the greatest example of this was Hassan. In case you don't know him, Hassan is an extremely popular Twitch streamer who made it seem as though it would be absurd to discuss this, even going as far as getting mad at the question even being asked.
Has Hassan talked about Mr. Beast Chris? Think about this. Hey, I know that the current sitting president dropped out of the re-election campaign in the most historic thing that has happened in this election cycle, in a sea of historic things that have happened so far. Has Hassan talked about Mr. Beast Chris?
This was despite the fact that within days of Donald Trump being shot, he would discuss the Cody Ko allegations. Add on the fact that he talked about the Dr. Disrespect allegations for hours upon hours on end, and you have what many people would call double standards. Other big name creators such as Ludwig, Pokimane, Valkyrie, and Moist Critical were all pressured into commenting on the situation immediately after it became mainstream, as they had previously done for the allegations levied against Dr. Disrespect. Charlie and Ludwig would both bring up the fact that this pressure to comment wasn't helpful in the slightest.
I've been being attacked on Twitter, just fucking dogpiled, about my ignoring the situation and refusing to speak on it, being too much of a coward to talk about all this, which is crazy to me.
I'm gonna make a video in the next couple days on this channel because I had a lot of shit come my way about taking too long to make this while on vacation with my family. But that's a story for a different day.
Now, speaking from experience, as someone who has a bit of a history talking about controversial creator incidents, I think it is important that we make sure that the people at the top aren't just trying to protect their friends. However, I also think that this particular incident was definitely gone about the wrong way. Look, if someone makes it their job to discuss each and every big breaking YouTube news story, then their silence on one of the largest cases would be strange. To have such passion in condemning one situation, but then none for the next, seems inconsistent, and it makes it appear as though you're playing favourites. But it's also extremely important that we give these kinds of creators ample amounts of time to comment, because when they do eventually respond, their response is going to be seen by hundreds of thousands or millions of people, so they need to make sure that whatever they do say is informed and correct. Being reactionary is not going to help anybody, and forcing these creators to comment on an issue that's still unfolding before the accused has even had a chance to talk about it themselves is just not fair. Jumping on big name creators to comment before Mr. Beast or Ava had a chance to explain their sides of the story sounds extremely parasocial and leads to ill-informed takes that lack any nuance. However, we would get a lot more context when the Discord was eventually leaked. I'll try and make this quick just by showing some of the more controversial messages, but after this incident blew up, after people initially spoke on the matter, the old Discord had its messages leaked, so 500,000 messages were there to see. This leak reaffirmed a lot of what we had already seen and were told. That Ava Kris Tyson was a fan of Shadman, that they would send links to the Discord, and that they spoke about sexual topics quite frequently while in a server with teens. The leaks weren't exactly groundbreaking because we knew a lot of this already, but this was confirmation for a few of the accusations levied against Ava. Then, on the 31st of July, Nathan would reveal that the site that had the leaks on it had been taken down, and potentially served with a cease and desist. With that out of the way, I think it's finally time we discuss what both Jimmy and Ava had to say about it. At 34 minutes past 8 PM GMT on the 23rd of July, Ava Kris Tyson would respond. I would like to apologise for any of my past behaviour or comments if it hurt or offended anyone. Seeing recent events, we've mutually decided it's best I permanently step away from all things Mr. Beast and social media to focus on my family and mental health. I want to add, I never groomed anyone. The person who gets brought up in these accusations, at LavaGS, has vocally supported that they are false. Having said that, I humbly apologise to anyone I have hurt with my unacceptable social media posts, past actions, and to those who may feel betrayed by how I used to act online. To lump these two factors together to create a narrative that my behaviour extended beyond bad edgy jokes is disgusting and did not happen. In past years, I've learnt that my old humour is not acceptable. I cannot change who I was, but I can continue to work on myself. I don't want these accusations to impact the hundreds of people who work at Mr. Beast, which is why I've stepped away. As responses go, this one was, as you might expect, immediately clowned on. In contrast, on the 25th of July, Jimmy himself would come out to give a much more brief statement. He tweeted, "Over the last few days, I've become aware of the serious allegations of Ava Tyson's behaviour online, and I am disgusted and opposed to such unacceptable acts. During that time, I've been focused on hiring an independent third party to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure I have all of the facts. That said, I've seen enough online and have taken immediate action to remove Ava from the company, my channel, and any association with Mr. Beast. I do not condone or support any of the inappropriate actions. I will allow the independent investigators the necessary time to conduct a comprehensive investigation and will take any further actions based on their findings." Clearly, this is quite a big deal for the Mr. Beast brand, considering that 1, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the very first times that he's had to comment on any sort of internal incident within his own company. Number 2, he claims to have hired an independent third party to uncover what actually went down, and this would be in line with Muskina's testimony. Perhaps there are more things that Mr. Beast knows that the rest of us do not. And 3, if anyone, Ava is the Mr. Beast OG. They're not like Chandler or Carl or Nolan, who joined the cast years on after they had already found some success. They've known Jimmy since they were both growing up. According to sources, the two have been friends for more than 15 years. People have also noticed that the two statements are contradictory. Within Jimmy's, he claimed that he took it upon himself to remove Ava from the channel and MrBeast brand, whereas Ava makes it appear as though the decision was mutual and that they stepped away instead of being shown the door. So it appears as though one of these two is lying in their response. Whatever the case is, the ramifications of the fallout of this situation will only reveal themselves over the coming months. The last time we had such a negative incident around the platform's biggest channel, the entirety of YouTube suffered for it. Right now we know the immediate fallout, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was much more aftermath yet to reveal itself. With that said, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm insanely close to 150,000 subscribers. I would truly, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it. Also, why not check out my video on YouTube's horrific scandals? It's a personal favourite of mine. If you love this, then I have no doubt that you'll love that one too. With that said, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.